G'day everybody. If like millions of other people in the last couple of years you have spent a lot of time teaching, broadcasting, recording and even video conferencing, zooming all over the place, you may be getting a little bit bored of having a pixelated head like a Minecraft character. And there is definitely something that we can do about it. And if you've looked on YouTube, you'll know that plenty of people say that you can use a DSLR camera so that you can look a little bit like this. And I'm sure that you will agree that this looks a lot better than that other webcam. However, when you tried it, you actually ended up with this on the screen and you have no idea how to fix it, or you might have ended up with your camera looking like this. And now you've got this box floating around your head that just won't go away, and you've also got this writing down the side, but it does look like a much better picture. Well, there's a couple of different ways we can do this, either via software or hardware, and today we're going to have a look at the Canon M series, although the same sort of software and hardware will go across a lot of other different cameras. So let's use the KISS principle and keep this stupidly simple, and let's get into this. So just to help you out, down here I've got some text so that you know which camera I'm using. Obviously you can see there's a big difference between the camera on my laptop and the DSLR camera, and of course you'd expect that because, well, DSLR has got a much bigger sensor and it's got a bigger lens, and well, it's just dedicated for taking really good photography. However, what happens if we put the software way of getting your DSLR camera to work against the hardware? Well, it looks a little bit like this, and initially you don't see a lot of difference. But if I was to move side by side, you'll notice that the one with the wrong hand, the one with the Canon Web Utility, you can see it is actually a little bit choppy, particularly when I come in through this dividing line. So if you want a really good camera shot, and if you want to try and record in 4K, then you are going to need to go for the HDMI capture card to actually get the best quality. However, using the web utility that Canon has put out actually doesn't do too bad of a job. I mean, if I just stay here, it looks okay. You wouldn't know that there's a little bit of choppiness as I move around. However, on this side, if I move around, you'll see that most of that choppiness has disappeared. So what are the two options? There's a cheap one and there's an expensive one, as you would know, but let's have a look to see how we can get you going quickly and simply. So to make both of these options work, you are going to need to have a tripod, a cable that has a micro USB connection, and also a camera. Not that type of camera, that type of camera. And even that's not the right type of camera. So before you go out and start wasting your money, make sure that you actually know which cameras are compatible for what you want to do. That's all you need to actually get going with your webcam and using Canon software. However, if you want to go just that little bit further, well, you're going to need an extra piece of equipment. To record with a capture card, of course, you're going to need to have the capture card. That's a really expensive one. That one's not so expensive. That one was only 10 bucks or somewhere around that price. And of course, you're going to need to have a HDMI cable. That is, unless you buy a capture card with a HDMI cable. And of course, the question is, which one's better? Because you can spend an awful lot of money and actually not get anything better than what you could have done with, say, 20 bucks. So let's just have a quick look at these and see what the different options are. So let's go with the cheapest option first, shall we? Let's connect up our camera using a cable and go to the EOS, or the Canon EOS Webcam Utility. That's basically what they call their software. Before we look at the simplest option, let's have a look to see which cameras are actually suitable to be used as a webcam. A quick web search will find the utility that you need. It's called the EOS Webcam Utility. It's a bit of a mouthful. I don't know why they didn't just call it Canon webcam software, but that's what they call everything that they do. So let's leave them to it. Just down here, you'll see that there's a little bit of resources, including where you can download the utility from. And if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you will find all of the current compatible products. So you want to make sure, if you're going to buy a camera or if you're going to use one of your cameras, just make sure that the actual camera is in this list before you go wasting your time or money trying to make it work. It's also worth looking at the other list, which is the which camera has a clean HDMI out, which is really important if you're going to use a capture card. I just searched for Canon clean HDMI output camera and I come up with this. I'll put the link in the description, and if you scroll down from here you will then find the resources that says current compatible products are these ones, and you'll notice that the M6 Mark II and the M50 Mark II are in here. It's one of the few cameras that have a clean HDMI out that you can use. Both very good cameras. But you can use the EOS M50 Mark I as a webcam, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Once you're ready and you've got the right camera, click on download. It will take you down to the bottom here, and then you've got an option to download for Mac or Windows. Click on the one that's right for you. It will download the software. I'm going to open this up and then click on setup.exe and then basically just go through the setup process as you would do installing any other piece of software. Once you've downloaded and installed it, don't go looking for it anywhere in lists of software. It won't show up. It'll sit in the background, and the next time you open Zoom and you want to select your camera, you can go down and select the camera that you want, which in this case will be the EOS Webcam Utility. Now, before you can use it, obviously what you need to do is to connect up your camera. You're going to take your USB lead and you're going to plug in the small part into your camera, and then the large end is going to go into your computer. And what's going to happen then is a little bit of magic. Every time I connect up my camera, the EOS utility kicks in and up pops this. What I found is having this opened actually interrupts the webcam flow. For some reason it doesn't work, and this opens automatically as soon as I plug my camera in. So plug your camera in, quit out of that, and once you've done that, your webcam should come back. As you can see, it looks pretty good, and let's be honest, with that jittery, you're really not going to notice it too much. You've got much better quality straight away, which means when it goes to your video conferencing software such as Zoom, they're going to scale it down anyway, so it won't be completely perfect to the person on the other end. So that little bit of jittering, it doesn't matter, but if you are looking for a really nice, clean, crisp output, or maybe even a 4K output, then you are going to have a look at the capture card. So let's have a look at that option now. Now, before you go down the track of buying a HDMI card to actually get your camera to display in your computer or on the TV even, you need to make sure you've got a clean HDMI output. You can look on that list of current cameras in Canon that are actually available for doing that, but I'm going to say this now, these are quite expensive options, and if you go down that route, you could waste a lot of money and not actually have something that's functional. What do I mean by a clean HDMI output? Well, what I mean is at this moment in time, you can see nothing around me, apart from this writing down the bottom, which I put here. But some cameras will display everything that you would see normally on the display of the camera, a little bit like this. So this is what a dirty HDMI would look like. You can see that the tracking box is obvious around my eye there. That's the autofocus telling you where it's actually focusing to. There's the histogram, that graph. You've got all of that information that's around the outside. This is well and truly a dirty HDMI, which is great if you actually want to have it on a bigger display so you can see what you're doing, but it's not so good if you want to use this for web streaming. So you need to make sure that your camera, when connected up to a HDMI out, doesn't display all of this. And now let's have a look at the options of cards that you can use to actually get your camera output onto your laptop, PC or Mac. As I said earlier, you've got some really expensive options like this one here. This is the CamLink Pro from Elgato. You can put it inside of your PC. It's a great option. You've got 4 inputs, but if you only have to get one camera in there, it's pointless. On the other end, we've got this generic capture card. I think I got it for 10 bucks off of eBay. No, sorry, Amazon. I haven't actually tested this one yet, so I can't tell you what it's like. However, for an extra $10, I got a kit which had a small HDMI adapter, also had a HDMI cable, as well as the adapter itself. So this is a really good option for 20 bucks if you don't have anything. And I have been using this, and I'll let you know what it's like in a minute. Then we've got some in-between ranges. We've got something like this, which is a game capture card. This one sits about the $200 mark. This allows you to be able to connect in a 4K option camera, game device, something like that. And that to be able to not just plug in, but to come back out the other side onto a display, as well as recording it onto your PC. It's a little bit more specialized, but if you've got one kicking around, you can use it. The other option that I haven't got here is the Elgato option of a USB. Now that's probably going to be a good option if you want to record in 4K, because these cheap options tend to only record in 1080p or HD. So the choice is yours, $400, or you can have a go at one of these cheap ones. And to be honest, like I said, I haven't used that one. This one doesn't seem to be doing too badly. Now, I haven't been sponsored by Elgato. I bought these. They suited the needs that I wanted to solve, and I also bought these as well. So nobody's paying me to tell you what I think you should do. And if you want good, honest advice like that, do us a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share with your friends that need to know this sort of information as well. And look, I'll be able to produce more of this content as we go. All right, let's get back to the capture cards. By the way, Elgato, if you want to sponsor this, always happy for a conversation. Now, if all you want to do is to plug your camera in and just find out what it's like and how it works, I would forget about those products. I would go for one of these. Like I said, I can't tell you how that works, but the USB-C, just make sure that you've got the right connection for the ports that you've got in your laptop. Let's have a look to see how this works. Now, to show you the setup for the HDMI capture card, I have got my Canon M50. I'm recording on my Mark II, but this is basically the same setup. I have got my little HDMI to USB-C kit, and I also have a dummy battery with a power supply. Now, obviously, Canon, I believe, do one of these, and they're a stupid amount of money, but for about $20 or $30, I bought one of these online, and I'm running both of my cameras on it, have done for a couple of years, and they work perfectly fine. So, basically, that's what I've got. Oh, by the way, the reason I use this is because basically the batteries go flat really quick if you're using them just in a camera like this, just being on and recording all the time. So this means that I can have them on for, you know, an extended period. The other thing that you're going to need as well is this USB cable, because this is what stops this from shutting off every half an hour, which is really annoying. So let's get this out and have a look to see what we've got. HDMI cable, capture card, an adapter so that we can turn the USB-C into a standard USB. We also have instructions in here, but, well, basically plug and play with this, so don't need that. All we're going to do is to basically connect this up. Now when I turn this on, you'll be able to see what I'm seeing, which if I click on down here, you can see that I'm using OBS with a laptop on a very spoofy mobile stand because I'm in a shared space and I've got to keep moving everything. Now, just a couple of notes on this. I'm not keen on this setup. For a start, to stop the camera from turning off, and you can set it to not be on eco mode and not turn off and not turn the display off, but eventually the camera does go to sleep after about half an hour. And if you connect it into the computer with this little USB lead and leave the EOS Utility open, you'll find that it won't turn off at all, which is really good for a webcam because a lot of what we do lasts for more than half an hour. However, this adapter for the HDMI cable actually blocks the data port. And so obviously you can't get that cable in, which is not a very good idea, which then leads me on to my second issue. I also don't like the fact that this actually seems to put a lot of tug on here. It actually sort of twists the port, and I'm not overly keen on that. So I would say go out and get yourself a micro HDMI cable or a micro to a full-size HDMI cable so that you can actually just plug straight into it without having to have this adapter on it, and then you can get your USB cable in as well. Once you've got this set up, it's basically relatively simple to actually get going. Now, like I said, there's a couple of issues that you have with the M50, but with the Canon M50 Mark II, you're going to need to search through the options and find the clean HDMI out option. Now, it is going to limit your options when you put it on. I don't think you can record when it's on. So there are a few oddities that will happen when you do that. However, to actually get the clean HDMI out on that M50 Mark II, just go and find it, select it on. You have a choice, I believe, between a 1080p and a 4K. Make your decision, turn it on, and the rest is history. You've got a nice clean output like this. With the M50, very, very similar. You can see if I turn this on that everything's there and the focus is working, and it actually looks like you've got a clean HDMI out. However, if I turn this around, trying to be careful of that HDMI port, and put it on my face, you'll see that you get that box turn up. You remember that really annoying box? Well, we need to turn this off, and it's quite simple. On the back, just here, you've got the autofocus, manual focus on and off. So if I just pull this back, you can see that it's on. If I put manual focus on, then it's gone away. If I put it back on again, you can see it comes back again. Now you do have that autofocus that stays down there. If you push the shutter button halfway down, you don't have to push it always, you'll find that that manual focus, autofocus will disappear. So you do sort of have a clean HDMI out on here. However, it comes at a sacrifice, and that is with the M50, you're not going to be able to focus. So this is really good if you're going to do a sit down and talk and not move from your seat. You just basically put it in focus and it'll be fine. However, if you're going to be moving around and basically just jumping about or something like that, then really this probably isn't the camera for you. The other thing to notice on the back of here as well, we've got a button here that says info. If you press this button here, it will turn off all the information around you. It does work, it works quite fine. You just need to remember there's no autofocus. So when you're actually doing this, you're going to have your autofocus and your manual focus. You're going to turn it on and off. And what's going to happen is you're going to get your autofocus. You might have your camera about here. And what you're going to do is you're going to go, yep, that's right. You're going to lean forwards to turn off the autofocus. And when you do that, it's going to refocus closer. So you're going to turn it off onto manual. Then you're going to sit back and it'll be out of focus. This really does help if you've got somebody that can actually turn that on and off for you. So if you sit here, move around just a little bit so that it focuses, and then get someone to push that button while you stay still, that focal length shouldn't really change. But as I said, there's a little bit more setup. But if you've bought one of these and you're using it for recording, that works perfectly fine. You don't have to worry about any of that. But if you now want to use it for streaming, it just is a little bit more of a setup. If you're going to buy either the M50 or the M50 Mark II, if you've got the choice of the two, I have seen these cameras for the same price. I have seen the Mark II for cheaper than the Mark I. It's not called the Mark I, but so we know which one we're talking about. I've seen it cheaper for the Mark I. There's no reason that I would buy an M50 Mark I over the Mark II. So as we're coming up into the last part of this video then, of course, you want to know which one's the best one to go for. Well, this one's going to get you going straight away. You can go down, buy yourself a cable, and you can actually get up and going with a bit of software. And actually, I think the software doesn't look too bad. Although, if you're going to be moving around, it is going to look a bit choppy. Then add in that Zoom, for example, might scale down your video depending on how many people are on the call. It might get worse after that. So you could always go for a little kit like this. Like I said, I paid $20 for this, not US dollars, AU dollars. So for you, it might be even cheaper. But sometimes some of these cables can cost you up to that sort of price. I know many of you are thinking, why don't I buy a $2 set of cables? Well, I like good quality cables is the honest answer. But this does get you a better output. It does get you a better quality, as long as your camera is capable of using a clean HDMI out. So when it comes to which card are you going to use, well, I've been using this one on this camera. However, this front camera here, I've actually been using this here. So it's absolutely your choice what you want to use, how much money you want to spend. If you're on a budget, these are a really good option. However, if you've got a little bit of extra cash and you want a bit more reliability, then these are really good to go for as well. Now, there's one more thing we need to talk about before we go, and that is these two tiny little holes in the front of the camera, and that is for the microphone. Now, like any webcam, you're going to want to have audio when you're talking to another person, which is fabulous. You have a microphone on the Canon cameras. The Mark I and the Mark II M50 both have these stereo microphones, and you think that's fabulous. But Only the Mark II will allow the audio to go from the camera down to your computer. So you are also going to need to buy yourself a microphone, and lots of them. And of course you can spend as much money as you want. The question is, what's good for a webcam camera when you're using your DSLR for that? Well, first of all, if you're using the Canon M50 or any other camera that you can get a clean output but doesn't put the sound out, then, well, actually you could probably use both, but something like the Yeti, where you plug it into your computer with USB, is a good option. However, that USB, you can only ever use it into your PC. You'll never be able to put it into your camera. Something like this, any of these microphones, uses a 3.5mm jack plug to go into your camera, or you can go into your laptop. Just bear in mind you might need an adapter depending upon what type of 3.5mm jack actually goes into them, whether it's a 4-pin or a 3-pin. So what are the choices that we've got here? Well, we've got the lavalier mics. That's basically just a wired version. This one's an interview kit, so you've got lots of other bits as well, but basically it's a lavalier microphone which you can just tuck into your t-shirt, jumper, whatever it is that you're doing, and you can just put that in straight in via a cable, either into your camera or into your PC. Now, my Canon M50 Mark II puts the sound out via the USB cable, the HDMI cable. So I would rather put it straight into the microphone of my camera, because then you don't get a disconnect between the audio and the video. I mean, you don't really want it to sound like one of those old Police Academy movies.
So you want to challenge the master? Okay, let's fight.
The next option you've got is, of course, a set of headphones. You may be able to plug these straight into your camera, but of course you're definitely going to be able to plug them straight into your USB. And the other thing, just bearing this in mind as well, you could use them on your phone also. So this is a headphones with a microphone on them. Next one is a shotgun mic. Basically, you can have this from a distance and you'll be able to pick your sound up from there. And then lastly I have is, and this is my favourite, although I don't use it all the time, then it's a wireless set of microphones. So basically you've got a receiver that sits over behind the camera, and then you've got a receiver that sits down onto your belt buckle like this. Now, which one's the best? Well, it depends what you're going to do. If you're going to move around a lot, you might not need a wired one. You might want to have a wireless one. If you are going to be turning around when you're moving and talking, maybe you might be on a table where you're giving a demonstration, I would really suggest a lavalier mic. Good thing with lavalier mics is that you're always going to be here, no matter what happens, no matter how you turn, it's going to pick you up. Something like a shotgun mic, a bit similar you might have seen on your laptop, if you're turning away, your voice is going to raise and lower, and your volume's going to raise and lower, depending upon where the volume's going. So I do think that the lav mics are probably worth a bet, and they'll plug into your camera and into your PC. And even the Canon M50, well, of course, if you're videoing something else somewhere else, well, you can use these out and about too. So these are a great option. Headphones are good. The only thing is, of course, I mean, I know it's a bit of a thing nowadays to have that gaming look with great big microphone and your great big cans over your ears, but you know, personally I don't like it. But it doesn't matter whether you like it or not. It is a good option to get your voice into your video, and a lot of people are used to it now as well. So there's the choices. It really is, the choice is up to you. I prefer a lav mic, and if you're doing lots of walking about, then use your portable one. And if you're going to be in a fixed position, then something like this is good, and you can pick up these lavs for maybe $10, $15, $20. You know, even the cheap ones aren't too bad, but just bear in mind there is a difference in quality. A higher cost lavalier mic is actually going to give you a better sound. Often you get more tones in your voice. You get a bit of a less squeaky voice. So there you go. There's the options of microphones. And of course, with the Canon M50, you are going to need another microphone to be able to put into your setup. Whereas the Canon, yes, you can get the audio from it. The M50 Mark II, I should say, you can get the audio from it. However, this is a way better audio than what you'll get out of your camera. So there you go. I hope you can now go away and use your Canon camera for a webcam. And don't forget to like and subscribe down the bottom. I'll catch you next time.